9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Okay, welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Happy to be with you this morning. As with usual, there's a little bit of technical issues going on, but I think, yeah, look at that. We got it. We got it all worked out. And we are here this morning. We've been putting out the emails to all of the people running for mayor, running for city council, and as you know, as you have been following the show, we were really excited. We only had one interview so far with one of the candidates, and so we're going to be having a really awesome interview this morning. I've already been having a conversation with Miranda, who's running for mayor, and so you're going to be, I think, blown away by her background and by what she's going to be bringing to the table. Just from the maybe, I guess, 5 to 10 minutes of speaking with her this morning, I've been really impressed, and so I think you are going to be as well. And so now that we got some of the technical things out of the way, as you know, I've been doing the show from 2 different places. One from my office from work, and I have the studio set up there. So I have 4 laptops, an iPad, 2 mixers, and hopefully internet and all the software and everything that has to work and be rebooted all the time and whatever over there. And then I have the same thing in our studio. And I'm actually surprised we have as little glitches as we do from time to time, but I do apologize for you guys watching or listening. I know sometimes, seeing things, we're used to seeing flawlessness when we're watching our, live streams, our favorite live streamers or our favorite podcasts and things like that. So anyways, that's my apologies on my end for that. But at the same time, I'm really grateful for CKLU, Sudbury's campus and community radio station, been around since 1984, started in a little trailer up at the Laurentian University on the hill, and now is located in the new School of Architecture, McEwen School of Architecture, in the corner of Elm and Elgin Street. And but we're not coming to you from there. We're actually coming to you from the studios, my studio, and but we're grateful to be here. We're happy that things are working, and all of y'all that have been on the show, from the beginning and then coming on board, we really appreciate you. You know that this is your show. It's a community conversation. It's a chance for you to get involved in your community by at least expressing your opinion, which nowadays seems to be, and you wouldn't think it would be, kind of harder and harder to do. But anyways, this is your show, and we're here to facilitate the conversation. And make sure to like, share, subscribe on youtube.com/Sudbury News or facebook.com/Sudbury News. And we're going to be joined momentarily by our co-host, Nick, who said that her alarm wasn't working this morning, and my text actually served as an alarm. And now we're experiencing internet issues here in the office. So that's just the way it goes, but we're not going to worry about that. So I can't actually read your comments per se on my laptop, but I can read them on the Switcher Studio that we do use. And so without further ado, I'd just like to get into things because Miranda's time is valuable, and I want to basically get right into it. And for all you all watching and listening, I think this is going to be very educational for us all. And yeah, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Miranda Rocca Cercelli. Did I pronounce that correctly?
No, you did not, but
I
that
didn't,
is
yeah.
okay.
Of course I didn't.
Yeah, it's Rocca Tricelli, but it's all good.
Miranda Rocca Tricelli?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
You got it.
cool. You know what? I was born and grew up until high school in Sault Ste. Marie, and a lot of
Okay.
Italian.
So you're
all my
around
best
all the Italians, yeah.
all my best friends were Italian growing up, and I loved the culture. And people would say, well, you go to your friend's place and you're 9 years old, and you come back and say, yeah, what'd you have for supper? Well, I had 5-course
Glass
meal
of wine,
and
some
wine.
pasta.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. And they say, you're 9 years old and you had wine? Well, yeah, for sure. One glass. We weren't, drinking.
Yeah, that's nothing to Italians. That's like water, right?
No, for sure. And I just love the culture and whatever. So and I do to this day. So without further ado, let's get into a little bit. You're running for mayor. You're not running for council, and I believe that's in my point of view, or in my mind, kind of a bold thing to go rate and run for mayor. I think a lot of people would think, okay, I'm going to run for council. I'm going to be in council for a while, and then maybe I'll make the leap to mayor. But anyways, we'll get into that later. First of all, I'd just like to know a little bit about who you are, your background, and let everyone kind of get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. Well, great segue is, talking about Italians. And so I was born and raised in Gatchel from an immigrant father from Italy. And, one thing about the community I grew up in was that sense of community, that sense of belonging, that sense of safety, where you always had somewhere to go. You always felt like you belonged. It was just such a wonderful feeling. And, that is part of, the intention I want to bring as mayor, is bringing back that sense of community, because it seems that throughout our community we've lost that and we've completely disengaged. So having gone through 3 years, I think going through some hardship that I think a lot of people have gone through. I'm born and raised in the city, as I said. I'm a local entrepreneur. I run 3 businesses and a nonprofit youth basketball league. I have 3 children of my own as well. And I think this is a beautiful city. I've been here my whole life. I've never left. And I deeply miss that sense of connection, that sense of community that we once had. And for me, it became incredibly apparent these last 3 years, the value and the importance in politics, where I was never really politically inclined per se, but having to follow legislation and, for the last 3 years and really follow what was happening, I think that's where the connection for me was really made about the value in becoming part of the solution, instead of enabling the problems. And so that's what inspired me to really throw my name in the hat and say, okay, I do have skill sets that I've worked very hard to acquire that I think can contribute to fostering some good in this role. And, hearing from our community citizens and the despair that people have, I quickly realized that there was an opportunity here to create some change and to apply the hard work that in the skills that I've acquired in a role that potentially, can make a difference. And hearing people's desperation for that connection, for that engagement, I knew that this was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up, because I think our city is in a state where, again, people need that sense of meaning, purpose, and connection. And that is something that I'm skilled at bringing and working with people to bring. So, so that's a little bit about myself, a little bit about why I chose to throw my name in the big hat. And it's honestly been an absolute wonderful journey. It's been fun. It's been exciting. And I'm just having a great time.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know what it's like, first of all, to just, like you said, throw your name in the hat on such a big arena like that, running for the mayor of the city. But you did say a lot of the reasons why, which I think a lot of people connect with that. Mm-hmm. But just let me welcome our co-host today and introduce you guys together. This is Aneka Gervais. She's been on part of this journey that we've been on Sudbury News since pretty much the beginning. And so just wanted to have you guys get a chance to say hi to each other, and then we'll do the 3 screen and we'll have the 3-way conversation. So good morning, Aneka. How are you doing?
Good morning. I had some technical issues this morning, so I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to meet you, Miranda. So it's nice to see a woman trying to go for mayor, and it's really I'm just really excited to meet all the candidates, and I know how difficult it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. No, awesome. And I think I've seen you around. So I followed you on certain social media as well. So it's nice to actually have a conversation with you. It's a pleasure.
It's nice to talk to you.
Yeah, I'm feeling the love right now, so this is awesome.
At 7:30 in the morning, usually.
I know.
Yeah.
I kind of want to be like Go Women Go and be women empowerment because I just love seeing women, trying to hold on to that power. So
Absolutely. I appreciate that because there's a unique energy that comes along with, I think, that empowerment that I think we desperately also need in our community and in the world. So any opportunity, I think, where we can support each other is always very exciting. So thank you.
And that's been a topic, right? Like mainstream news across at least North America is how do we get more women involved in politics and be able to have a more diverse voices to be in these positions to influence and make make decisions, and because there is a different perspective there's no doubt about it. As much as we want to feel that we are the same, because I think men and women can do exactly, the same, a lot of the same things, but there are differences as well. And I think those need to be celebrated as well. And I think they need to be accepted, right? There's no doubt.
Absolutely.
It's okay to be different, and it's okay for men to be better in a category and women to be better in another category, and we should just accept that.
Well, and leverage it, right? And I think that women, I think everyone brings a unique perspective. And what I've experienced in being a woman is that, there is a certain sense of compassion and nurturing that I do think and I'll only speak from my experience because that's really what I can truly authentically speak from. And I've recognized that, it is a gentle touch that is required. And when your city's in a state where there's such disengagement, it's such a brute, almost archaic way of doing things in many aspects. And that's not to say that people aren't doing the best they can and people aren't showing up in the best way possible. It's simply to say that, there's an ingredient that maybe is missing that we've overlooked, and where right now that ingredient could be really a great contribution to creating that sense of engagement, because compassion. We do need that piece that I think is missing. We need to be nurtured right now. We are in such a state of disengagement, and like I said, people do not feel they have meaning and purpose in this community, and in any of the communities within our community. And so, I think for myself as a woman, bringing that sense of compassion back is desperately needed.
So well, I just wanted to say first of all that we are three entrepreneurs on this conversation right now, and so there is something.
So we're going to talk for hours.
That could be the case, and I don't think there's going to be a lull in the conversation one bit. And again, it's just coming from a similar kind of place and experience kind of thing. And so I just wanted to let you know that too, Miranda, because we've already talked about some of our business backgrounds, but Anik as well, she's an entrepreneur. And so having said that, I wanted you to just kind of let our listeners, our audience know what your entrepreneurial background is and some of the things you've already done, just so they can be aware of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my. So I'll kind of give you it in a nutshell here. So I have a consulting business called Creative E-Learning Design, and I started that about 15 years ago. And I had just acquired my master's in education, where I focused on online and digital learning. And you and I had this great conversation before about being ahead of the curve, and where, the idea and the premise was to transition companies from conventional to online, and to do it in a way that was actually engaging, where they were part of an environment. And that took a long time. Most of my work has been in leadership development, curriculum development, executive coaching, which is all stuff that I'm quite passionate about. And then really all my content was born out of my own discovery and my own questions about myself and in my own journey. And so I was able to take that content, because my rule is always, you can't take anyone, or you can really only take people to the depths you're willing to take yourself. And so for me to be authentic, I really had to do that work, build that content, and then share it with others in a way using my educational background that they could then take it and learn from it. So I've had that for about 15 years. And then I own 2 franchises. They're called The Real Estate Book. It's a local real estate publishing book that I acquired in November 2019, just before a wonderful unconventional world changed into an even more unconventional world. And then I acquired a second one in Mississauga. And then I also run a nonprofit basketball organization for youth. So we have rep teams and house league teams. And that was born out of a perceived need to support youth in the community, to grow and develop in the basketball community, but also to create a sense of leadership. So we partner with Indigenous communities. We partner with different underrepresented groups to provide programs for youth, not just in our rep and house, but we really look to serve youth. And we picked up, during the pandemic when there were other leagues throughout the city that had to shut down, we had the only private facility because I had built a partnership with an organization. And so we were able to house kids all over the city in our space and just provide a safe space for them to learn and grow, which is really wonderful. So in my businesses, I've worked with nonprofits, I've worked in the mining, health, I've worked in every industry. And I really did that just, heels on the ground. And as you know, as an entrepreneur, you deal with some challenges. You deal with a lot of no's, actually more no's than ever yeses. And you deal with, I know people used to say to me, I don't know anyone who gets up every day and goes at it the way you do after, all the rejection and that's the life of an entrepreneur. And, there is a skill set that you acquire when it's you going door to door, trying to make things work, implementing things, bringing ideas to clients. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You invest time, you invest money, you invest your soul, and sometimes things don't work out and sometimes they do. And for me, it's all about having to build collaborative teams because, when you're a sole proprietor, you have to leverage your abilities and work with people. So I've built connections with a lot of communities. I've done a lot of volunteer work. I've sat on a lot of boards, and really just trying to educate myself in the best way possible so that I could be of service to my clients and the people that I work with. So it's been an interesting journey, and we even talked. I had a radio show in CKLU. I've probably explored and experienced just about everything as an entrepreneur. Really just acquiring skills and finding what I loved and building those networks. And it's been over 15 years that I've been doing this. And so there's something to be said of again, the perseverance, the tenacity, the strength that you acquire when you're really on your own, having to figure out, how am I going to provide for my family today? What's the next project? This one didn't work, or these 100 projects didn't work. Okay, where's the one that will work? And let's work on that. So it's really has to do, I think, a lot with mindset too. And I've been committed to doing that inner work. And I do feel that even in this political arena that I'm entering, that's the most important piece, is the mental health and the well-being. And having spent years doing that work, I really can say that is what is helping me make decisions in this new arena in a way that I have integrity with, because I continuously do that hard work on myself so that I could be present and be available to others.
There is definitely
children, that's hard to do too.
It is, and I was just going to say the entrepreneurial mind. And if anyone's ever, I was going to write a book, basically, teaching people to have
because you're an entrepreneur.
Exactly. And that's what's going to be the book, is like, get a business. That's basically what's going to be. And I thought, for one thing, it would help society just with the mentality and the self-esteem of people. Get something you do well, turn it into a business, even if it's a side gig. Just do it. And here in the book will be all the basics of just how to do it. Do a little bit of bookkeeping, a little bit of marketing. And even if it's cutting grass, if it's whatever it is, underwater bricklaying.
The amount of appreciation you will have for businesses. You would actually be a much better customer. You would appreciate the advertising budget, marketing budget, all these events and all the work that people put in. Because I don't think people actually realize how difficult it is to run a business.
it goes back to that piece of compassion I was talking about. Empathy is probably the greatest strength that a leader can have, true empathy. And, I was at the mission, Elgin Street Mission yesterday, and I've, this week I've dedicated to mental health and really understanding and educating myself about people's experiences who are vulnerable in the community. And, even just, I was serving coffee yesterday, and it was a great experience, and people were just so grateful. Yeah. And when you can connect with that gratitude and just that moment, and, if people, question and certain behaviors, and it's like, if you know what it feels like to be in a place in your life where just a moment of kindness can change your entire day, where just someone serving you in a very polite way and just really there to care can change your entire outlook that entire day. Yeah. And I think as an entrepreneur, because you've had so many bad days, that you really do connect in those moments when someone just hands you a coffee and says, have a great day and thanks for coming out. It's like, that's all you needed that day. And it really makes you, I think, appreciate, as you're saying, Nick, those smaller things where you can connect with that normally you wouldn't be able to, because again, empathy is, connecting with people's emotional state as much as you can in relation to their experience. And so the closer you can get to people's experiences, the more you can connect with them.
Yeah.
And so even in those small moments, it's like there was such humility in that experience for me yesterday, because it was like, and people were saying, great job, you're here, you can come anytime, and I can't believe you, and for me, it's like, no, I really do put myself in a position where it's like, being polite to people in a certain position, like, it will change your day and your world. It's true. I know what that feels like.
I am an advocate for mental health. I am a public speaker. I go in high schools. I'm a mental health survivor. I've been down the ringer as a teenager. I was a lost soul. I did a lot of inner work, and I am just here to do the same thing, is bring more love in the world, because we need it. One thing I have, though, a question I have: love is great, compassion is great, empathy is great, but we got these big, like, men club in Sudbury, and I'm just wondering, like, what, for me, that's one of the issues I'm seeing. But for you, what's one issue that you're really seeing in Sudbury that you really want to shift or change?
One issue. Okay, well, that's a tough one, Nick, because
I know there's many.
Let's start with one, though.
Let's start with one.
I'm like, I don't know, which one do I pick? I can't speak to the fact that predominantly, and I've been here my whole life. I can say that, you are pretty accurate when you say it is, and people refer to this often where it's a boys' club. And I will say, to a certain regard, I've experienced that in the city, many times as a woman entrepreneur, and even in this role, in this pursuit. I think the biggest thing right now, and I'll get technical, because there's two things. I'll say socially and emotionally, we're disconnected. We're disengaged. There is minimal connection with our citizens in any possible way if we talk about the social aspect. If we get technical, and I've just proposed a major freeze on capital spending, an external audit of budgets, because the truth is, until we can identify where we're spending, we really shouldn't be spending.
I like that, Miranda. I just have a couple questions now that you're talking about money. Are you pro this library for $100 million downtown that's taking half the parking lot for the arena?
So this goes back to my freeze on capital spending. So what I'm saying is, until we audit our budgets in just about every department, and I know that's a huge feat, and maybe it's a phased approach, but the idea here is, again, these nice to haves, they're nice to haves, they're not need to haves, they're nice to haves. Really, I'm not saying that they're horrible ideas. What I'm saying is, right now we need to get our state of affairs in order at the state. We can only do that if we audit our budgets, because the thing is, that has not been done externally. I honestly don't even know when. We also don't balance our budgets at the end of every fiscal year. So, so identifying where we're bleeding money, and then starting to implement a process where we can get even close to a zero-based budget. Once we get our finances in order, then these nice-to-have projects we can look at them with a much more objective like perspective, because right now it's very subjective. If you don't have numbers, you can't quantify things, then you're making decisions based on subjectivity, and that creates room for interpretation, opinion, and all that stuff.
It's
So,
I
you
like it
know,
because you're going to look at the city like a business, which people should be looking a city like a business, because that's what it is. And if people aren't even looking at the finances or even balancing your budget at the end of the year, that's just nonsense. That should not be happening.
right.
So
And
I
it's exactly what we
that's
teach in business, right? It's the
exactly.
first thing we teach.
And I really like the actual social aspect because people aren't aware that they're willing to spend over $100 million on a library and has already passed through. So this is a problem. Most people aren't even aware of what's going on in the city. So
There's a lot of people who aren't aware, and I think that that's where municipal elections and this process is really important, because this is people's opportunity to educate themselves on the candidates and their ideas. And the truth is, it's not even about my ideas. People will come up to me and say, what are you going to do about this, and what are you going to do about that? And the truth is, the role of mayor is to be a representative of the people. It's to be the voice of the people, to be able to lobby, advocate, and to really facilitate and guide. And so for me, this journey has been about better understanding the voice of our citizens, and that's why I'm overexciting myself by going out and experiencing these different phenomena. And I've always volunteered in the community. That's the thing. Like I said, I've been on boards. I've gone out in the community. I've done so much community work, and this has been concentrated, obviously, because of the nature of it. And it's a lot of information to take in, and it's really important, because without that needs assessment almost, and that's what I do in my business, before I develop a coaching program or anything, I need to better understand the audience and what their needs are. And so for me, this journey is really about understanding people's needs and wants, and then bringing that to the table and pairing that with objectivity and saying, okay, well, how do we meet this, and how do we find a place and create a space for our citizens to feel engaged and connected.
Also,
and it's a process.
It is a process. When you're buying a business, you kind of need to know the ins and outs of a business. So it's nice that you've already put in this motion to do an external audit, which I'm all pro, because I don't know, a lot of people feel there's a lot of corruption, and this is not just Sudbury. This is many cities. There's just tons of corruption, and if we can eliminate any type of corruption, that would be great. I have another question that's a big, big topic in Sudbury, and I'm just wondering what's your opinion about the arena?
So I'm born and raised in this beautiful city, and when I was small, I used to go downtown all the time. My mom would take me downtown. She'd take me out for lunch. We were downtown all the time, and we were all over the community, because there was such a sense of connection. And my mom would take us places because it was something to do. A lot of times there'd be free barbecues. So, as a mom, I understand what that's like, and you try to find things for your kids. And so I really do believe that every city, the downtown is the core of the city. I've never gone to a city.
Have you been downtown lately?
I have. I've been downtown. Well, I was just downtown feeding the homeless the other day.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yes. So I think our downtown is worth exploring, absolutely, in terms of, revisiting. And again, there are so many communities that have gone through similar processes. So it's really not something new that we're dealing with.
What other community has done this?
I mean, in terms of, there's Thunder Bay, North Bay, every community has dealt with, not to the extent that we're at. I think we're a little beyond.
We are beyond, and those are smaller towns, and they're downtowns. Like North Bay's a little bit better, but they're not getting buses from Toronto, homeless buses being shipped to Sudbury. This is an issue.
Yes, it is.
It's like, to me, it's a waste of money to invest anything in our downtown before you fix that issue, which we need an arena, Miranda. We need an arena. And why are we competing between downtown and another area? Why can't we just have two areas where people can just go and explore? And then let's pretend because I feel uncomfortable going downtown. I do not like the downtown. It's empty. Half the buildings are empty, and they're empty because they're unsafe. So there's a lot of things that you can't even do with the downtown.
Well, if I can jump in here too, just because I have
Yep.
to explain that our comments are not able to be put up on the screen right now. For some reason, that's one of the technical things that's never happened before, but it's happening now. I can't put the comments, but I am looking at the comments and monitoring them on Facebook on my laptop. And I want to just say good morning to David, good morning to Julia, because they've already chimed in. And Julia was saying, just for the record, she's no wimp, but she was downtown the other day, and she was horrified, terrified, and she feels that she won't go back for a while just because of the situation downtown. She was
It's
scared.
understandable, and
Yeah.
and I agree. There's a problem.
But so
when
what?
busloads
Before
of people are being shipped here
It's
and
true.
dropped off.
But like that's problem's not going to get fixed in a year or two, but we like actually need an arena that needs to start being built right now. And what I was going to say is, let's pretend I'm bringing my family to an arena in the South End. It's not even on the Kingsway. It's in the South End, and I'm bringing my family there, and now the game's over or the entertainment's over and it's 9 p.m. and I just heard, "Well, let's go see what's going on downtown." So then I would go downtown. I don't know why we're competing against downtown and an arena. Like, we can have both.
You know what? That's a great idea. And I thought of that the other day, actually, which is really funny that you're mentioning. And I thought, why can't we have both? You know what I mean? Why does it need to be a competition? And
Yeah.
this is the thing, being in the city my entire life and being an entrepreneur, what I do find is that there's a lot of silos. So, for example, even going back to the mental health aspect and all these organizations that I've been meeting with, it's everyone's in their own silo, and it seems a survival mode has occurred for everyone in any industry in our city, which is, and I've experienced that as an entrepreneur attempting to collaborate and partner with organizations and people where it seems like everyone is in a scarcity mode. And so, one of the visions I have, even especially for mental health, and that includes homeless, opioid crisis, human trafficking, like all these mental health that for me fall under that pillar, is how do we create a hub? How do we bring resources and people together so that we can start leveraging the resources and support so that not everyone, they're not on their own? Because when you're small, and I know this, you have to partner, because if you don't, your survival, it's not sustainable. And so how do we start to bring these, and not just for the organizations, but for the people who are attempting to access these services? They're all over the place, and it becomes so challenging for people who need that support and that help to find and to connect those dots. So we need to connect them for them.
Yes, when you have mental health, you do not have the time or the energy
Yeah.
to start calling people and start doing paperwork, because
Agreed.
I've been down that road. I was a lost teenager and there was no help, Miranda. There's not a lot of hope. There's all these nice buildings with all these nice mission statements, but really down to it, there's people waiting months and months and months, girls who are bulimic, who are losing half their hair,
I
that
know.
can't even see a doctor. So it is a problem, but I feel like that's something that will take years, but like, let's try to help it. I love this whole hub situation where people can, there's an app or something.
Yeah,
where
like-
people can have free access to
Yeah.
therapy. But also, people need to do their own work, Miranda. If you do not do your own work, if you do not do your own sweat, you will not get better. So us enabling and giving drugs to people is not going to help our issue.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. There's so many layers to this, and when people want a straight cut solution, like I said, when they come to me and they say, what are you going to do about the homeless situation? What are you going to do about the opioid crisis? And the truth is, if I said I had the solution, that would be very misleading, and that's not something that I'm interested in. That's not the road I want to take.
Right.
And the truth is, I'm not an expert in all these areas, and I am willing to work with the experts, which is why I've been, boots on the ground, better understanding everyone's perspective, whether it's the organization and the people that are out there trying to do good, and then the people who are receiving those services, and better understanding all those perspectives, because then I believe I can maybe formulate an opinion that is somewhat educated, that I have integrity with. And the truth is, working with all these experts, they aren't even able to offer a solution because they know that there is no solution. But there are ways that we can start to create more support and resources that will start to alleviate what we're seeing. And then going back to even your comment about buses of people coming here, that is, something that, yes, I've heard that, and it's hearsay at this point because I can't substantiate that fact right now. And, something like that needs to be further investigated. Why is that happening? Who's paying for people to come here and making these false promises to them? That needs, I need to better understand that before I can even respond to that.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's like you're trying to dig a hole while water's being poured into it. We're backlogged. We're not going to solve the problem if people keep coming here, and we don't even have resources to serve the people we have.
No.
Like when I went out, we served over 100 meals, and
we're going to be serving more.
200.
We're going to be serving more. There's a huge financial crisis coming around the corner. The thing is, too, the problem with the city is that I was part of the new shelter last year that was opening up, and we were doing such great work. We had 30 people sleeping in our little arena that people volunteered, gave this building, and the city shut it down. The building was okay, and it was downtown. It's because these individuals weren't going at these other locations. So these other locations were losing on money. It's all about money. So when we can start auditing about that, like, wouldn't it be great that you are a agency that helps the homeless and your agency closes because you have succeeded? Shouldn't that be the goal? But it just doesn't seem like that's the goal in the city, that the city doesn't really care about the homeless people, that they see them as dollar signs. And there's people making money off these homeless people. So it's a problem. So I think we should build an entertainment center elsewhere so that people will forget about this homeless problem for a little bit, and we could divert, bring them over there, have families come out and get connected and do things, because that's what we need. And then we could also, at the exact same time, work on the homeless center the homeless problem that's happening downtown.
Well, and that's it. It's and I think once we perform an audit, that's where we can make those decisions to say, can we financially sustain, any of these incentives? So again, it goes back, unfortunately, and you're right, and it goes back to the dollars and cents, and and that's where and all these organizations who are out there doing great work, they're fighting for the same dollars and cents that, and that's where the scarcity and survival mode, there's only limited resources. And so my vision is in performing an audit, and I mean, I already have a few indications of where there is money that we can find that is being misallocated. And, if we can create some sort of resource pool for these organizations so that they can better serve their clients, such as the homeless, because, if they're provided with their day-to-day resources, like it changes things when people are provided for and they're given resources and opportunities. It changes the landscape immediately. And I think, like you said, this isn't an overnight thing, but we have so many experts here that we can work with to get our downtown back into a safe space. And you're right, like there are lots of buildings that are vacant. The city has between 500 and 600, from my understanding, vacant buildings. So, going into the environmental world and tapping into all these different areas, there is opportunity for us, and we need a leader who can definitely forge ahead and lobby for these opportunities. And the thing is, you need someone who cares, because at the end of the day, we know as entrepreneurs, the only reason why I get up day after day after day is because I'm passionate about something and I care. And that's what gets me through all those hard times and all those no's and all the rejection and the challenges, is that there's a connection that's deep. And I think that is important, and kind of going back to, being a woman and bringing that sense of compassion. That is why I've chosen to run, is because I actually care. I'm not a politician. I'm not looking for a career in politics. I've been approached and I'm like, no, I'm doing this because I care, and I know I'm capable and I can do some good because I'm willing to work with people. So that is why I chose to do this. And again, I'm not coming at this as a career politician. I'm coming at this as a citizen like you and me. I am,
You're just
hardworking like you guys.
Let's fix this.
Yeah, and the decisions and the perspectives and where I come from is based on the struggles that I've had, which are very similar to the struggles that all of us have had, especially in these last 3 years. Challenges with business, almost losing my businesses, all that stuff, obviously mental health, all these things, especially with 3 children. So for me, it's about, no, we're going to make decisions that are based on the voice of the citizens. And I am a citizen. I'm not a politician. I will do my very best to make those decisions from that place. Obviously, with that little bit of that hat on, like I said, the objectivity of quantifying things as well, and being able to show the evidence and the proof for the decisions that we're making. So it's a good combination. It's almost like you need that formula of, yes, you need compassion, empathy, all those skill sets that we've acquired as entrepreneurs. And you also need to have that, objectivity and say, okay, well, if we're going to make decisions, we need to be able to build a case for that that's substantial and transparent, and communicate that to people.
So, and connection with other people, because it looks like in politics you need votes. So it would be interesting to see if who you're working with, I'm always curious to know about that. It's these people we're interviewing, it's one person, and that's great. One person can make a change, but 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 that have the exact same, goal, then we can make a bigger difference. So it'd be interesting because you're a networker, you're an entrepreneur, that I'm assuming you'll be good at networking and connecting with other individuals and sharing your passion, where you guys can work together as a team.
Absolutely. Well, and that goes to just meeting with a lot of the candidates running for wards right now. I've taken time to meet a lot of them, and I know it's hard because we all have busy schedules, but
I think this is really important and actually really good for your platform, because if candidates are not taking the time to meet with you, like literally 30 minutes, that just says something. Because what if you do become mayor, and then you guys could build a relationship, because the goal should be to improve the city.
Absolutely.
So we should do absolutely everything to do that.
Well, and so it's been great, because I think that a lot of the counselors from my experience and my connection with them, we're all on the same page, which is really wonderful to see. And often actually, with most of them I've met, they're like, yes, we can work together. And this is great. We're happy we chatted, because now we know. And like you said, we've already kind of primed the pump, and it's like, okay, we know we can work together. We know what our views are. And so we can hit the ground running. So that's exactly it. And yeah, does it take time to build connections? It does. And I will say, a lot of people have asked me, what's the first thing you're going to do when you're there? And to be, the honesty is, I'm going to build connections and rebuild connections, because right now those connections are not healthy ones.
No one's trusting anyone.
And that's it. And it's going to take time, because I do it the old-fashioned way, like this: have a conversation, have some dialogue, exchange, and it's going to take a long time, because the relationships with our citizens, with our council, with our city staff, at every level needs to be completely rebuilt, and that's the work I'm willing to do. And again, that takes time, it takes nurturing, it takes compassion, and I'm excited about that, because again, for me, it's connecting with people. That is my skill set, and we desperately need that.
And you're using your online platform, you've used software, you've done things like that. So it would be so interesting. I don't even know, as a person who actually cares about our city, who tries to do better, I don't even know what's going on, ever. I don't read the newspaper.
Well, there's a disconnect, right?
And so it would be nice that there could be a hub for that. Like, if you are a citizen that wants to know what's going on in Sudbury, like on a
absolutely.
There's meetings and there's votes, and I could attend a meeting, or even within the city. That would be really cool to have. And I could see why some politicians wouldn't want that, because sometimes you don't want people involved.
Well, that's where in-camera sessions, there's ways of doing things. And I think we've got it on the flip. So all those meetings exist, but they're very hard to find. And so for me, again, going back to being an entrepreneur, visibility is huge, right? And even the fact that people can't comment on social media. Right. This is a day and age, and AJ, you kind of mentioned this at the beginning, where, it seems like there's no opportunity for anyone to connect anymore, and we just keep getting shut out. And the truth is, that's going to add to the hostility that already exists, and the disconnect. And I've been speaking to a lot of people, and to be honest, there are times where I sit there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I just listen to people release their anger and their frustrations. And that's really all they want. They just want an opportunity to be heard. Yep. So this day and age, the fact that we don't have platforms and ways of having people connect, and they're very simple things to do.
Let's have some meetings with the town, and like maybe once a month, and like come and complain
Agreed.
and vent.
Yeah.
And then it's like, if people have a problem with, did you come to our monthly meeting that we're having? Like, come and share your opinion, and then people
And that's
can
it. It
vote.
creates accountability.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I do want to do, and I think it's absolutely necessary, is that, yeah, we have council meetings, absolutely. But on top of that, I think we need to have some sort of, like, whether it's quarterly, but a town hall situation where we rent out
for sure.
a hall.
That's what I
we
meant.
have an agenda.
Yes.
It's facilitated and mediated because you do need, certain structure.
Yep.
But it's an opportunity
Robert's
for
rules.
people to just come out. And the purpose of it is, like, make it a think tank. Make
Yeah.
it an opportunity for people to just voice their opinions. And, you can do this face to face. You could do this virtually. There's no excuse to not do it.
Exactly.
And
what
I
a
understand
great
it's
way
scary
to
for
bring
people
people
to stand
together.
there.
What a great way to bring people together.
And it's a simple thing to do. It's really not a complicated thing to do. And yeah, is it fun to sit there and listen to people, tell you how upset they are over the last 20 years? Yeah, it's not easy to do that. But again, that's where the entrepreneurial skill is. Listen, if you knew how many doors were slammed in my face, listening to people voice their concerns is really, like, I can navigate that. And it's important to allow them that time and space to be able to do that. And so that is something that I definitely want to bring. I think, again, we have to do these things right now because we are so disconnected.
Right
we will
now.
completely lose. And I mean, we don't want to be in that state. We saw what the divisiveness has done over the last few years. We need to connect as people now more than ever before it's completely detrimental to our city and to our people.
So on that note, I'm just following some of the comments here, and a lot of people are frustrated with the city's fiscal history of the finances, and we've already talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they're looking at politicians making a lot of money and giving themselves even raises in the midst of other people. Inflation is going higher and faster than ever, and it seems like they're not making any more money, but yet politicians are giving themselves more money. And then we see some of these decisions being made, these legacy projects. They've already gone and done the gas work for the new library downtown already. They seem to be moving really fast at that, but everything else seems to be really, really slow. So, and like you said, they stopped the comments online so people can't talk anymore. It almost seems like they're in a bubble. They're just doing things, and they're not doing what the citizens themselves are wanting. Mm-hmm. And in the midst of this is all leading to a question and something that's on the horizon, and that's the Doug Ford government wants to give mayors more power in their kind of press release, or their kind of launching of this idea was to get housing built faster, because they believe cities, councils, and the process is taking too long to get housing made because we're in a housing crisis. But then they also said, and other things on our list we want to be able to have done faster. So you as mayor, are you in favor of having more powers, or do you believe more of the way that it is now, but being able to rally the troops and work with everyone, as opposed to saying, I have more power, I say it needs to be this way, so let's go with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I had given a response to this question as well. And when you give that kind of power, unfortunately, if it's in the wrong hands, it could be catastrophic. And we've seen that, I think, in the last 2-3 years. And I think that for me as mayor, and this is something that I remind people when they ask me, what are you going to do about this? And what are you going to do about that? And I remind them, this is a democracy. I am one vote around a table of 13 others. And that's a beautiful thing, because it's set up that way so that you can collaborate, you can bring in more opinions. And as much as in my businesses, I've had to make a lot of decisions on my own. I would have loved at so many points in time to be able to make those decisions working with other people, because again, it's a very narrow vision when you're one person. And as brilliant as a person is and as aware as they are, it's really one vision. And so unless you have someone that is incredibly supportive in really representing the people's voice, and as much as I can speak to myself and my capabilities and my commitment to do that, and even if I did have that type of power, I would ensure that I, again, operate consistently as I've always operated, and that is always working collaboratively. I don't know if another incumbent would be able to make those same decisions. And so I think for the safety of the citizens, that needs to remain as a democracy, and it needs to remain as an equal seat at the table, because again, I think that is more cautionary in regards to being a true representative of the people.
And then there's a second part. Second part to that question was too. A lot of people are talking about, and we've on the show talked about salaries of politicians, and locally, it's interesting that currently the mayor's salary, when you take in all of the benefits and things like that, is inwards around $250,000 per year, and that's actually more than the mayor of Toronto makes. What are some of your thoughts on that? And will you just keep the same salary, or can you back that up, and why you would keep it if you would, or what you would do with that, and what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah,
salary?
no, great question. Obviously, it's been coming up a lot. So one thing that in a piece is that the salaries increased. And a lot of people, are misled by why that increase occurred. So it wasn't a performance. It wasn't anyone giving themselves raises. It was something that happened across municipalities. And so what happened was, previous to this new policy, the government implemented a policy that the benefits and pension weren't taxed previous to this new policy change. And so what they did is when they started taxing them on their benefits, they increased their pay so that their net take-home was the same as what it was previously. And this went for councillors, mayors across. This wasn't just an isolated
Citizens don't get
event.
that hookup.
Pardon?
Citizens don't get that hookup. When my prices of food and everything else goes up, my salary doesn't go up.
Absolutely. So the way I compare it is, if you apply for a job for a certain salary, that's the salary that you've applied for. And so once you're in that job, that is your salary. They can't say, well, they can, but I mean, there's laws and there's ways, there's policy around this, but they can't say, well, now we're going to pay you half of what we hired you for in the same role. And so logistically, it did make sense for that increase because their net take home stayed the same. And again, we can dispute this. It's not a decision that I made. That is a provincial mandate that was brought down. So in that regards, that is the reason why the increase occurred. It wasn't a performance increase. Now, a lot of candidates have said that stated they're going to take a decrease in pay. And that's misleading as well, because it's really not that simple. You can't go into a position, especially a public sector position, one where there is policy around the salary, and that's been decided upon by a board of governors. There's a whole process. And so to make a false statement and say, well, when I'm in that seat, I'm going to take a pay cut, it actually isn't feasible and has to go through a process. Now, what I'm open to is in the audit, when we start to determine where we're losing money. Now, the mayor's increase equates to 0.01% in terms of a budget and effect on the actual budget when we look at the salary budget. And so why aren't we looking at bigger returns, such as when we do an audit and we start to see where there's redundancies and where there's potentially millions of dollars that we can start to reallocate to the programs that we've been talking about. To me, that's where the focus should be. And I understand that currently, the point of reference for this role, people have expressed that as being disappointing. And so the thing is, in my world and in your world, you understand the value of exchange. And, as an entrepreneur, that is incredibly important, to always provide a value in exchange. And so if an audit's performed and the report says, in comparison, this is where we're losing money, right here in this area where the salary for the mayor is this and that, and they can provide that type of discretionary information, I would be open to exploring that. So I think it's really virtue signaling at this point that people are saying, well, I'm going to take a pay cut, because you're saying that, but the truth is you can't really do that. So I am open to that being audited and looked at and compared across different municipalities and seeing, okay, well, but again, that's a whole board process. We're in the public sector. Yeah. You can't just make that announcement. And so for me, again, that's important for people to look at their candidates and say, are you knowledgeable and aware of what you're putting out? Because making a claim like that you're just going to take a pay cut, is really just virtue signaling to get votes.
Right.
The
Well, and
truth
it's
is,
politics.
you
That
can't
wouldn't.
do that.
Yeah, and that wouldn't be the first time that was done in politics. I mean,
exactly.
you say what you got to say to get in, and that's why a lot of people kind of lose interest in politics to begin with, and all of that. But so I think I'm on the same level as Nick right now, just expressing that we do appreciate your very honest and transparent answer of that question, and that wasn't a political answer by any means. And a lot of people might say, "Oh, you're just trying to explain it away or whatever," but you were giving the actual reasons for the situation and what you would do considering it. You were given the real answer, and a lot of times in politics, like you said, you're not a politician. Like that, sometimes
You'd be surprised how many people told me to give a different answer. And I said, I can understand where people are coming from and their frustration. But again, if you had someone in that seat as a reference point that you saw almost, you couldn't even count how many times you've seen that person interacted. You saw them in the community. They were working their butts off. This wouldn't be a point of contention with people. True. Because they would be like, no, that person is earning every dollar they are making. They might be getting paid millions of dollars, but it's an exaggeration. But what I'm saying is they would be able to see the value in exchange. And that's something in this city we're not seeing. We're not seeing an equal value exchange system for services or programs. And the people that are, in some cases, the people that are supposed to represent us. And so it's created it's hostility that people have because they're sitting there saying, yeah, it is a big salary and it's a big job. And to be completely honest, the work I've put in since May 2nd, I have been tirelessly working, and that is absolutely factual. And I'm going to add the element of being a woman and having to work this hard. And I'm choosing to work this hard because I want to do a great job, and I want to show people that what you see right now is what you will see in that role. I'm a woman
you have
who is
really
consistent.
good support too, so that's nice to see.
Yeah,
honestly, that was the reason why I made this decision, was because the stars aligned and the right support and the right people came out to really help me make this happen.
And it sounds like a really great way to end the show because our time's done anyway, so we have no choice but to end it here. And also, I'm thinking what we should do is have candidates on like at the beginning, like we're doing now, and then invite candidates back like right before the election to just kind of have another conversation. So if you'd be open to that, maybe we can do that because it just seems like there's just so much to talk about in so little time. And so if you want to check out more of Miranda's platform and more about her, you can go to Miranda4mayor.ca. And here's a look at what it looks like, just so you got the right one. It's Miranda4mayor.ca, and check that out. And hopefully we'll have her back on the show before the election. So thanks again, Miranda, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was so fun. I'm excited for the next one, so thank you again.
Thanks, Miranda. It was really nice talking to you.
Okay.
That's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Take care for now. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU. We'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Ciao.